Welcome back, kiddies, to another Customizer's Corner. And what are we customizing this corner? I've gotten a couple of requests. People are interested in how it all looks on the inside of the legendary Morpher. So we are taking the legendary Morpher apart. Top section first, then the bottom. Like all Customizer corners, I would advise that unless you don't mind risking potentially breaking your toy, don't do this at home. I am not a professional, but I don't mind breaking my toys. So we're starting with the top plate first. Which consists of several screws, which I will demonstrate right now. There is one here, which I just took out. There's one here, there is one here, there is one here, there's one here, and there's one here. These screws are, of course, machined in, so they're always kind of tricky to take out. Something to always keep in mind. I have two screwdrivers I use for this. I have this smaller one, which has a rotating ball point, which makes it a little bit easier to rotate it. But then I have my master screwdriver. This one is ratcheted, and it can only turn in one direction or the other depending on how you turn this. Which is what I'm going to be using now, since these screws are a little bit tighter than the ones on the O's driver, which is also something I will be taking apart on the next Customizer's Corner. See? When I'm trying to unscrew it, I turn it in this direction, but as you can see, it's not doing anything. So I adjust the ratchet. And then we have our last screw right here at the bottom plate. There's the top plate right there. Here's the inner workings. As you can see, when you pop that switch, it makes those fly out. That's the switch in the back that's flipped when a key is turned in there. And it's a bit finicky to work with, especially when you don't have the rest of the gear plating working around it. That's why you have the top plate. It keeps it nice and secure in there. As you can see, here's the wire that leads from the soundboard up to the light box right there, which is right here. Really, there isn't too much to say about the top plate. That's the inner workings. So let's put the top plate back on. Resecure the screws into it. I shouldn't need to put all of the screws back where they were. Just enough to hold this top plate back in place. So I'll just put a couple in. I will completely reassemble it off camera in a bit. But this is to basically show you what the inner workings look like and the process of taking it apart and anything you need to be aware of. The main reason I do these on camera instead of just doing a bunch of cut takes is sometimes there's really small parts that if you're not aware of, you can easily lose. Like for example with the O's driver, when you open it up, there's actually a bunch of tiny little clips that are really easy to lose, and while they won't too badly affect the driver when you reassemble it, they do have a point there, if only just to hold things together a little bit more smoothly. So that should be sufficient. Still works. In the back here we have 6 screws and a 7th if you want to count the battery compartment. The battery compartment is actually screwed in. But we have 3 along this side, 3 along this side. If you actually look at the molding, you'll see that it's actually a brake plate here. Now, depending on how this is designed, I might need to remove the screw plate for the battery compartment, but I don't think I will, so we'll see in a moment. Switch it back to the other mode. That one's inside of a recess, so my large screwdriver won't work, but my smaller one should. I also have one other tool that I use for things like this, especially with small screws. So let me show that off. This is a magnetic wand. It's useful for pulling things out of recesses that you can't get a screwdriver into, that you've already loosened enough. And yes, it is a magnet, so things that are susceptible to magnets you don't want to put near it. Just something to keep in mind. But obviously not a very powerful magnet. Alright, so let me grab my magnetic wand again. That one's still pretty screwed in there, so let me loosen it up a bit. Mini screwdriver for the one that's inside the recess. Magnetic wand to pull it out. And now we've got the bottom plate. Here is stuff rattling around on the inside that I am trying to be careful not to dislodge. The battery has fallen out of its container. Wonderful. As you can see, I'm just being careful to open it up, because I want to release it without it actually breaking. That's one battery, that is two batteries, that is three batteries. In case you're curious, that's the battery. It's a watch battery. This seems to be working a bit better. I probably shouldn't have opened it any more, but I can show you the inside easily enough. Can I open it a bit more? No, probably not. As you can see, there is the battery chamber. Here's the soundboard. Here's the speaker port. Obviously it's got some wires that feed along into the top plate, which is this here. We've got the key chamber here. And that's about the long and the short of it. So for all my Customizer Corner kids, that is the inside of the legendary Morpher. Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of other screws in here that you can remove if you really want to get into the detail of it. But I don't think that would be relevant to our needs. So there you go. And I hope it was informative to anyone who's interested in taking apart their toys and possibly making them better or different. But that's how it works. Peace out. So, customizers. This is what happened. So, after a little bit of wiggling, I was able to get the back plate off. You do need to keep it straight to wiggle the back plate off. But once you do, you can get a much better look at the inside guts of your legendary Morpher, which I will bring closer to the camera for everyone to see. So obviously here's our battery compartment. Here is the push plate, the plate that has the keys on, and it's basically the soundboard. Here's the speaker. Here is how the key chamber works. And what you'll actually see is there's actually a number of little teeth here. And so when you put a key in, let me just grab one at random. I have plenty. Now it's not going to make any sounds because the batteries are obviously out. But let's take Wes here. Jason Faust. I think that's how you pronounce it. Could be wrong. Let me know if I completely butchered your name, Jason. Mr. Faust. There's the key. And you see what happens. There's a little gear device here. When you turn it, it covers up a number of these, which of course depends on the key. Here, let me try and give you a better look. Locks it in, sets a number of teeth. So I'll take Jason Faust's key out. Again, I'm sorry, Mr. Faust, if I'm completely butchering your name. It is not intentional. And we shall take Chip, Nick Sampson's key. So it looks similar on this side, but of course there's an actual sensor in there, that little green motherboard, which will read the teeth. Come on, Nick, get out of there. And that's how the key gimmick works. Obviously, you can go much further if you wanted to. You could unscrew this chamber here and pull out the actual chamber and gimmick with that. You can unscrew the actual soundboard, gimmick with that. So, but as you can see, the actual design in most toys, it's pretty simple. You've got a speaker down here, you've got a soundboard here, you need to get power from the batteries, and then you have this unique device here, which is the key reader. And that's about the long and the short of it. I'm not going to completely disassemble this because there are a lot of small parts that I really don't want to risk breaking or losing or whatever. And I don't think it's really necessary for Customizer Corner. If you're going this deep in, you'll be fine. Of course, here's a switch for the power supply. If you're really good at electrical engineering and you're dealing with something like the Super Mega Gun and you're doing something similar, you could probably alter it so that it actually has an off switch, but that means you have to know electrical engineering. We won't go into that here, but that's the inside of the legendary Morpher. So, like always, Customizer Corner kids, have fun.